Welcome back to another Your Photo, Our Look. My name is Matt Kloskowski, and this is where I take your photos and I edit them. So it's not my photos; it's your photos. If you want to check out the action, there's other videos. Which, by the way, thank you. The comments have been great. You guys have been submitting photos. Just go to on1photos.com. So on1photos.com, and you can go to one of the episodes or go to this one. Just leave a link with an image, and I'll start looking through and get to some other ones here. So I'm going through as many as I can, and got 4 new ones this week. I'll run through really quick. There's kind of washed out, a little bit faded. We got a portrait. We got a heavy silhouetted photo, and we got a cool shot of the of Mormon barns in front of the Grand Tetons just outside of Jackson Hole. So let's go ahead and get started here. The idea is hopefully if you haven't watched one yet, I'm not really teaching and training. I'm more kind of going over the workflow. Okay, so I'm not going to call out exactly the purpose behind everything. I'll just kind of call out the way that I see things. This I see as faded, washed out. Auto in Lightroom is always a great start for these kinds of photos. It automatically, look, before, after. Does a huge fix. We'll probably warm it just a hair. And maybe pull back some of the highlights just on that right-hand side. Another thing that we can do is grab our graduated filter, bring the exposure to the left, and we can kind of fade it in. And that's probably a little bit too high, but that'll give a nice way to darken that side as well. Okay. Not too much more that I would do inside of Lightroom to this photo. I could sharpen it because it does need some sharpening. But the On1's Perfect Enhance has a really good fixed focus because this one needs quite a bit of sharpening to it. So I'm going to jump into there and I'm going to go through the file menu. For a specific reason. I'm going to start in layers because if you go to layers, what it allows you to do is jump to any of the modules in the entire suite here. And that's what I want to do because first off, I want to do some quick retouching. Doesn't need a whole lot, but the perfect eraser here is kind of like content aware in Photoshop. And there's just a couple of little spots that I want to fix up. So just some of these little bright spots that aren't helping the photo too much. We got some signs that could get rid of. Again, another little bright spot up here. And I think we had something up here in the hills that could go away. And, get rid of some of these little light poles or whatever they are. Another stop sign back here. So if you haven't used this perfect eraser, it's awesome. I mean, really, you'd not believe how well it works. You're just painting. You don't have to sample or anything. Now, I am going to sample here because I want to get rid of these people. I can try the Retouch Brush. I don't think it's going to work. See, it leaves a big patch. I can try the eraser. Again, I don't think it's going to work because there's just too much. Oh, God, that's not bad. I was going to use the clone stamp tool, but that worked pretty good. So what I will do is use the clone stamp tool to fix it up. Option or Alt-click to sample, and then I'll just kind of go along that edge and just try to smooth it out just a little bit. I think I made it worse there. There we go. Okay, so that takes care of that. A couple little spots in here you could go in and retouch too if you had some more time. But I'm going to go ahead and move this on to Enhance just for a one-stop to use Fixed Focus. Fixed Focus in Enhance does just that and adds a nice amount of sharpening to the photo. If I zoom in, that's before, that's after, before, after. So I don't have to worry about it too much. It works for photos like this where they're just a little bit blurry. We'll go over here to Perfect Effects and just finish it off with a few effects. Probably my favorite part is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to hit up the landscape section. Golden Hour Enhancer is one of my favorites. It's going to really go in there and warm it up. Summer will warm it up a little bit, but leave it a little bit cooler than. Let's go turn that off and try the summer one. And it'll just leave it a little bit cooler than Golden Hour will. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm actually going to try the Golden Hour Enhancer. Okay, I really like the warmth here, so I want to play it up. Let's move over into the filters section. I'll add a new layer there, and I'm just going to finish it up here with the big softy. Reduce the opacity here. And that looks good. Let's go ahead and hit apply and return to Lightroom. Here's our finished image, and if I did anything, I might pull back on the exposure a little bit. You can, nothing says you can't. You can, if you come back to Lightroom and you realize something, go ahead, fix it. I might, add a stronger vignette just to tone down some of those edges a little. But let's go back. We'll hit reset here on our original and take a look. So that's our before. That's our after. Before, after. Okay, let's move on. Now let's take a look at the portrait. A couple quick things I'll do here. In the basic panel, grab my eyedropper tool, just click on the water. It's kind of a gray point. It'll warm it up quite a bit, which is good, but I'm going to just reel that back in just a little bit here. Exposure, bump that up a little bit. Cropping, I think we've got way too much headspace up here, so I will crop that in from the top right. If you wanted to, just an idea, you could really crop this in tight. It's a little bit of an awkward pose for him, so I don't know that we need to see too much of that. So you could crop it in way, way closer. Hopefully do stuff like that in the camera, too, if you have another version of the photo. But we'll just crop it in right about here for this one. I'll take my adjustment brush, bring up the exposure just a hair, and just pop a little bit more brightness on his face here. All right, so that's looking pretty good. Let's see here. We'll go down to camera calibration. This is a raw photo, which means these options will be enabled. We'll try camera portrait. It kind of pops the color a little bit. Always good to try it on a portrait because usually it actually works really well. Detail. You can kind of zoom in on the details here. Crank up the sharpening. 80, 90, 1.3, 1.4, always on the radius. Can crank up the detail. I don't want to go too high because it's going to start to introduce noise. So I just have to be careful of that. That's looking pretty good here. Check out our basic panel. Do some quick whites and blacks. I'm not going to push this all the way to a white point because I think it gets too bright. So I'll pull it back once I get up there. Same thing on the black point. I'll just get a couple little tiny specks there. That's before. And that's after in Lightroom. If we wanted to finish it up in Lightroom, there's really not too much more I would do to this photo. I take the radio filter and I maybe just put a slight vignette around him and maybe kind of angle it just a hair there. Feathered out a little bit there. So that'll show you the before and the after there. So I think that works pretty good. I'm not quite sure I would do too much more to this photo. If you want some stylizing options, I'll show you some quick ones here inside of Perfect Effects. Again, this is just more stylizing. I actually think we could really be done with this photo at this point. But if you go over here to your presets section on the left-hand side, the matte and more of, again, people love it, that faded type of a matte look. So that's a nice look. Before, after. Again, if your family, friends, customers like it, go for it. If not, then just hit the trash can on it. And another one here is going to be under your sunshine section. That's a nice filter, keeps the photo a little bit more pure, adds a little bit of a glow, and just kind of warms it up a little bit. So there's a couple options for you with it. I'll hit apply and take us back to Lightroom. So here is our before image, and there's our after. Before, after. Okay. Moving on, we got a little bit of a dark silhouetted photo here, so let's go ahead and reset all of our settings. I'm going to grab the graduated filter. I'm going to do the exact opposite. What you do here, we have a dark sky. A lot of times you get a bright sky and a good foreground. We're going to do the exact opposite. We're going to drag it up from the bottom instead of the top down, and then I'm going to open up the shadows. Okay. Just like that. Now, sometimes you might see some noise when that happens, especially since it was so dark. So we can look inside of here. There is definitely some noise. We can go to our noise reduction and remove that. And that helps out quite a bit. Okay. Cropping. So I'm going to do a couple things here. I'm going to go to my lens corrections because we got some crookedness going on. So I'm going to go to my lens corrections, enable profile, turn on auto. Crops off a little bit of the barn, but a little bit of the barn was already cropped off, so I'm good with that. And then from here, I'll go to my crop tool. And the road's not doing us any good, so let's get rid of that. and crop in from the top right. Okay. Let's see here. Go back to basic, Option or Alt click whites. Get a white point, Option or Alt click blacks. Get a little bit of a black point over there going. And maybe punch up the saturation just a hair. So that's looking pretty good. Let's finish it off just a couple of little settings here. Ooh, we got the retouch brush. A lot of times you can go into perfect layers, but I think Lightroom will work pretty good for this one at removing that. Worked great. And that's because it was able to find a good area to pull from, where inside of perfect layers, it's kind of like content aware. It finds its own. And we'll just finish it up in perfect effects with a couple of quick effects. I'm going to start in the presets section. There's an urban section down here. And I found one under here that really worked for this photo. Urban Sun. Looks pretty cool. You know, adds a nice warm kind of glow to it. I think overall it might be a little bit strong. So I'm going to pull back on some of the settings. And then notice how it opens up the shadows too much. You can go under protect and protect the shadows, so it doesn't make that too bright. All right. I'm going to add a new layer here. We'll go to our filters and we will finish it off with, you guessed it, the big softy. And the master opacity I'll probably just pull down just a hair here. A hair, when I say a hair, I mean 50%. Okay, let's click apply. Reset the original. All right, that's our before image. And there is our after image. All right, before, after. I might, you know, as I look at it again, I might bring the exposure down just a little bit here. Okay, and you can bring those shadows up a little. Nothing that says you can't re-edit it in Lightroom once it's done. So feel free to jump in there and do that. Let's finish up with this photo. Number one, I commend the photographer. You know, great composition here. A lot of people just shoot the barn in the mountains, and you know, really good way to get off of the main shot. Let's go down to camera calibration. Try landscape. That'll pop a little bit more color contrast. I think I'll warm it just a hair. Exposure, I'll bring it down just a little bit. Highlights, pull back some of that sky. Whites and blacks, got a white point, got a black point. I'm going to pull back more of the sky. In fact, I'm going to do it more with the adjustment, or the graduated filter here. Let's bring the exposure negative, and I'm just going to drag that in. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I want to darken these mountains in the background too. See how they got kind of washed out? That's before, that's after. They get kind of washed out, so this will help darken the mountains. And then if you notice the barn gets dark and the tree gets dark, just open up the shadows. Okay, it's not going to affect the mountains. The mountains stay just the way we want them to, and it's really just affecting the barn and the tree here. So that works out really well. I'm going to grab my adjustment brush, bring the exposure positive, or bring the exposure negative. I like the trees in the foreground. I just want to darken them just a hair. Okay, I want your attention over here more than over here. So that's looking pretty good. We'll try our lens corrections. Let's go ahead and enable the profile. Removes a little vignetting. I'm going to try auto. I don't like it. I don't necessarily mind that that tree is leaning a little bit. It almost kind of frames the barn, and I'm pretty sure the tree actually is leaning in. So I'm okay with that. So I'll actually leave it there. Let's go finish it off inside of Perfect Effects. We'll add a little bit of dynamic contrast, just to put a little bit of contrast and edge around everything. I'm going to bring the layer opacity down to about 60-70% or so. Let's add a new layer here. Some of the filters that are going to look really good on this would be under the sunshine. I think the sunshine filter will actually look really good on it. Again, just adds a nice warmer tone to it and a little bit of a glow. And then we'll finish it off with, you guessed it, the big softy. Okay. Nice thing about the big softy is if you don't want it to go straight toward the center, you could always grab the little point here and put it wherever you want. So you can kind of move that around. I actually don't mind it in the center, so I'm going to leave it as is. And we'll hit apply. Gets us back over to Lightroom. There's a little spot in the sky. Can turn on my, my Retouch spot healing brush. Visualize spots. You should be able to see it when I turn that checkbox on right down here. And just paint over that. So that takes care of that. If I could do anything, I might go back into Perfect Effects. Just in the interest of time, I won't. Probably reduce the layer opacity of the vignette. Could always fake it here and go positive with the vignette. I'm not sure that that's the right way to go, but just, I think I probably went a little bit too heavy. But let's take a look here. So let's reset. That's our before image. That's our after image. So before and after. All right, guys, again, make sure you hit up on1photos.com and leave a comment on any of the episodes here. You can see some of the past ones, leave a link, and hopefully I can get to your photos. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.